Coming to you live for the Built Full Tough Studio. Boomer Esiason and Greg Giannotti. It's Boomer and Gio on the Fan. Simulcast across the country on CBS Sports Network. And wherever you are in the free Odyssey app. Good Monday morning. The Kansas City Chiefs got absolutely steamrolled last night by the Philadelphia Eagles. I knew the Eagles were a good team. I couldn't pick against the Chiefs. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I was going to see the blowout that I saw. It was truly shocking. I don't think I've ever seen a team as good as the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that had gone to 3 straight Super Bowls, a quarterback who might be the greatest to ever put on a uniform, look that bad for that long. And this season has been tough. It's been really tough around here in New York. This came to a crashing end because, one, if you're a Giants fan, it happened. Saquon Barkley is holding up a Lombardi Trophy. This was a horrible game. Everything about this was horrible. And I don't think this is something just because I saw it last night. Like, there was a really bad Super Bowl down in Atlanta, the 13-3 one, but it was close. Like, there were some plays that had to be made in the fourth quarter for a team to win. As a whole, from the broadcast to the halftime show to the game to the commercials, this was the worst Super Bowl experience I have ever gone through. And I don't know how you could see it any differently unless you're an Eagles fan. Congratulations to the Eagles. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Jay. I think it just pretty much caught everything that I was going to say. But the whole thing was flat. And when the game stinks, then everything around it feels like it stinks too. So, okay, Eddie. Just from the playing standpoint, the first couple of passes, Patrick completes his first pass to Juju Smith-Schuster for a first down. His next couple of passes were to Travis Kelce, and they were way off. I mean, he was behind him on the first one, cutting across the middle, and then there was one that was going to be for a first down, and he threw it around his ankles.
Yeah.
And that was without pressure around him. So he got off to a really bad, uncomfortable start. He never looked comfortable. And then as the game wore on, it got worse because the Eagles' defensive line got better, and they just started assaulting him. And it did remind me of the 2020 pandemic Super Bowl down in Tampa when the Tampa defense got after him. And you remember we were talking on Friday saying, if you want to get to him, and you can get to him with 4, then that's how you're going to have to beat them. And, I mean, he probably took about good 12 to 15 shots in this game, and the one there in the second half where he gets hit in the face and they don't throw it was the fumble, and he got hit in the face and they don't throw the flag. It was just the whole thing was flat. The broadcast was flat. The game was flat. The commercials were terrible. Halftime, the only word I understood in halftime was John Stockton. I heard John Stockton.
Yeah, I heard John Stockton. I heard A minor as well.
I didn't hear anything. I'm not a Kendrick Lamar fan. I don't listen to his music. I don't really know that much about him. I tried to look him up as the whole thing was going on. I don't know what that was, and the whole thing was just, to me, it's too much. And I guess I've been a part of these Super Bowls for so many years and been a part of the pregame and halftime and postgame show, been there for, halftimes, been there for some of the great Super Bowls of all time. This one will go down as one of the worst. It has to. I mean, because there was really nothing and I guess when the game stinks, everything else feels flat. And, at halftime when the Chiefs are just getting steamrolled, you're like, this game stinks, and I don't know how you felt. I just felt that was like I was totally taken out of the realm of this is going to be a great football game and a great finish. I didn't feel that, and as soon as we got to halftime, I was like, man, Jalen Hurts' game is on. The defensive line of the Philadelphia Eagles is on. Patrick Mahomes is way off. The offensive line of the Chiefs are getting just hammered. And it just felt like the game was over at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it really ended on the Patrick Mahomes interception, but after the Cooper DeJean pick six. It was with 17-0. They had about 2 minutes to go, maybe a little less than 2 minutes to go, and the ball was pretty deep in their own end. But you're thinking, okay, they get the ball the second half. They've got a shot here at 17-0. The Chiefs' defense at that point was holding it together for the most part. They were keeping Saquon a little quiet, and you're thinking, if there's any way that they get back into this football game, it's right now. It's here. And then on the first play, he throws a pick, and then it leads to the A.J. Brown touchdown, 24-0, and then just good night. Forget about it.
That pick happened because he was hit as he was throwing the ball, but Tom Brady did talk about Patrick's feet were a little bit all over the place, and that just tells me that he is just he's just off. He was just totally off. And then in the beginning of the game, it was really when it was pronounced. In this part of the game, it already had started to go downhill, and I think whatever was going through his mind, I actually thought he was sick. I don't know. Maybe
really?
Yeah, I did. I didn't know. I thought maybe there was something wrong with him because that's not how he plays.
But I mean, the offensive line was getting dominated.
Yeah, I know that. But even before that, I'm like in the first quarter, he had opportunities and he was just off. He was like, we've played and we've thrown the ball where into the ground where you're not trying to throw it in the ground. Again, he missed Travis Kelce twice for easy first downs. Not easy, but still throws that he normally makes. And it wasn't until late in the game where he was just, heaving it up and just throwing it down to where the statistics started getting padded a little bit towards the end. But, congratulations to Jalen Hurts. He gets the MVP. I mean, you could have given it to any one of these four guys on the defense that had just unbelievable statistics, whether it be interception returns for touchdowns, interceptions, tackles, sacks. They didn't blitz once against him. Not once did they blitz against him. And there was a weird play at I think it was at the end of the first half, where Patrick Mahomes is throwing the ball to DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know what DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh yeah, when he dropped the ball, it looked like he was not expecting it. It was the strangest thing. That was the one where they showed Chris Jones collapse to the ground on the sideline after he dropped that. Yeah, on the third down. What was it? Third and 11
I just didn't
here?
Understand. I don't know what happened to DeAndre Hopkins. Like what? Like this is like one of the great wide receivers of his career, of his era.
Yeah. There you go.
What?
Right. I don't know.
Now, I'm not saying the pass was great, but it looked like DeAndre. I don't know what that was.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't look like he was expecting the ball when he was wide open and Patrick Mahomes was staring right at him. It was absolutely bizarre. And
that's what I'm saying. Like that play is kind of emblematic of the way that they played. Like for 3 quarters, they played the football game that way. Mm-hmm. Like where there were opportunities, and they were the team that looked like they had never played together before.
Yeah, and this team is amazing. The Kansas City Chiefs, what they've done. Having an opportunity to go for 3 in a row, having won 3 already, being in all these AFC championship games, the Hall of Famers that you'll have in this group. So, I mean, all that stuff is there. But something like this generally doesn't happen to the great dynasties in football. Actually, not generally. It doesn't happen to the great dynasties in football. And I was just thinking about Tom Brady in that booth. And, Tom is just completely prepackaged now, and he's just a guy who is hawking products and smiling, and he's just all cleaned up. But deep down in that robotic body of his was a guy that loved seeing what happened last night. There is no two ways about it. He was down 28-3 at halftime. He came back and won. Everybody's talking about the Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid dynasty could be better than the Patriots. They get their ass kicked with him in the building. That inner Tom Brady competitor that used to be out there on the field prior to being this vanilla Melba Toast broadcaster is smiling ear to ear going, try again, guys. Yeah. Try again. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, it was. I mean, part of the pregame show that I did see and was watching before I went to the Waste Management at 3 o'clock, I'm like, it was Patriot Central. It was like Bill Belichick, Gronkowski, Brady. I mean, it's over and over and over and over. I mean, it was just it was nonstop, and rightfully so. I guess rightfully so.
Well, I mean, Gronk and Tom Brady work for Fox, and you've got these dynasties that are going on and competing. And if they had won 3 in a row, that would have been something that the Patriots never did.
Yeah, but they had the whole thing with Bill Belichick at the top, like right around noon or 1 o'clock, whatever it was. I mean, it was just this Bill Belichick. He's everywhere.
Yeah, and by the way, remember when I told you that him showing up at the NFL honors was a big F you to the NFL and all the guys who didn't hire him. How about his girlfriend putting on the Atlanta Falcons Super Bowl champion shirt, walking around in the year that they blew the lead? If that, I mean, oh my God.
They must have went to Costa Rica or El Salvador somewhere to get one of those.
Oh my God. I mean, think about it. So Arthur Blank was about to hire Bill Belichick. He doesn't.
Yes.
Bill Belichick now has got a 24-year-old hot girlfriend who's walking around in a shirt of the Atlanta Falcons Super Bowl championship that they blew 28-3 to the Patriots. I mean, he is doing every passive-aggressive go suck it that you could possibly do to the NFL and the people who didn't hire him.
I knew that he was competitive. I just didn't realize how petty he is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it
is unbelievable.
I love it, though. I think it's great. I mean, when you've done all that winning and they don't want to hire you and they want to hire guys like Liam Cohen and 28-year-old offensive coordinators, you know, that are as old as your girlfriend and you're 70-something years old, I'd be doing these troll jobs, too. I mean, my God, it's great.
He is just, I mean, it is just one after the next with the rings and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Now, supposedly, I guess, she wasn't wearing one of his Super Bowl rings at NFL Honors.
No, she wasn't. It was her own.
It was her own cheerleading championship.
That's right. I know, which is even better, actually, the fact that she's a winner as well. She's doing her own winning. Winners like winners.
It's amazing. It is amazing. But, you know, it's unfortunate because we all look forward to the Super Bowl. And it was just, the whole thing was just flat.
It was a dud. It was a total dud. And this, for sure, I mean, looking at Travis Kelce's face, I think summed it all up. He was stunned. He was sad. He was confused. He didn't know what the hell was going on.
He's still good looking, though.
Oh, for sure.
Oh,
yeah, he's got that going for him. But, yeah, I mean, he looked just completely taken aback at what was going on. And there's no doubt that you look at this Chiefs team differently after this ass whooping. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you think about next year, I mean, if you are the Ravens who didn't end up facing the Chiefs in the playoffs, but if you're the Bills and some of these other teams in the AFC, they're like, man, you know, we can't get past them. Like if you're Josh Allen, you're like, holy hell, I couldn't get past them. That team.
I wonder,
that team that sucked that bad in front of everybody.
They certainly had a bad game, but you know, the game that would have been the game for all of us to watch would have been the Eagles versus the Ravens.
Yeah,
that would have been the game. That probably would have been the better of the two games or three games, including Buffalo, if you want to throw them in there. I feel like the Ravens would have stacked up physically with the Eagles, especially offensive line versus defensive line. And then you got the wild card that is, you know, Lamar Jackson running all over the place. But anyway, you know, it was unfortunate. It was just a really the game was just so bad.
Yeah, and
I mean, from the Kansas City competitive standpoint, from the Eagles standpoint, it was like unbelievable. Vic Fangio, not one blitz did he call, not one blitz, and that tells you all you need to know because now you're thrown into a 7-man secondary, and you're getting pressure with four guys, and it's created so much mayhem. And Brandon Graham turned out to be like he took Jawan Taylor on one play, and I mean just steamrolled him back into Patrick Mahomes. And that's why offensive linemen like to run the ball. They want to go forward as opposed to getting, you know, like pushed backward like a number of and Joe Tooney the same way on the left side. Josh Sweat was just eating him alive.
And you go from when Brandon Graham gets hurt and he tears his triceps and he goes on WIP and he's crying thinking that, you know, he let his team down by getting hurt, let the city down, he might have to retire, and then he just works his ass off to get to play in the Super Bowl and then gets in there, makes an impact, and wins another Super Bowl championship with the Eagles. I mean, that's storybook type stuff. And that guy's a good guy. He's been a Philadelphia Eagle fan favorite for a long time, so you feel good for him. But yeah, I mean, for an Eagles fan, this is the greatest thing ever. And there is nobody hotter in sports with what they have done, not physically like good looking, but hotter in sports than Howie Roseman. This guy is the best executive in professional sports, and it's not even close.
It's not even close. So here's the thing. Here's the Jet. You know, Bryce Huff, they took They took Mekhi Becton, of course.
Yeah.
Somehow the Jets ended up with Hassan Reddick, who only played like 9 games. And Hassan Reddick was coming off of a defense that was one of the worst in the league last year at this time, as opposed to the turnaround that happened that they became one of the best in the league, and certainly showed it last night. And Howie Roseman was the guy that was making these decisions.
I mean, from Zach Bond to Cooper DeJean, both those guys with picks, one a pick six. Mekhi Becton, who was a total slug when he was here, and then he's a big storyline about how he was out of the game for a little bit and what impact that was going to have. To Saquon Barkley, maybe the best free agent signing in the history of the NFL. I mean, everything. Hiring the two coordinators in the offseason, from Kellen Moore to Vic Fangio.
If you remember last year around this time, because of the way that the team collapsed last year, there were questions as to whether or not Nick Sirianni was going to get fired. And they decided to keep Nick Sirianni, brought in two new coordinators. Obviously, we just talked about Howie Roseman, all the things that he did in this offseason to get them where they are. Now Nick Sirianni's contract, he now goes into a lame duck situation. As of right now, his contract ends after next season. So, there's got to be an extension and a huge raise coming. There has to be.
Yeah, but Howie Roseman's probably like, hey, I won with Doug Peterson. I won with Nick Sirianni. Whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm good. And we could let him go if he wants too much money. I'll find another guy to do it.
And they're going to now need a new offensive coordinator because Kellen Moore will be named the head coach of the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, and I got a feeling Howie Roseman's going to find the right guy because generally that's what he does. And this was a team that early on in the season, did not look great. They had lost to, I guess that Kirk Cousins stat is over with then, right?
Yes,
so
it is.
The Philadelphia Eagles end up winning, but they lost that game to the Falcons. And is this team any better than it was last year? And all they did from then is just win, and just blow teams out. I mean, you think about their NFC Championship game and their Super Bowl. Those are two of the most impressive back-to-back victories in those two games that we have seen.
Turnovers, defensive touchdowns. I mean, those are killers. And, Patrick Mahomes, to his credit, stood up there at the end of the game and basically said, I let you all down, talking to Chiefs Kingdom. And he goes, I'll be back and we'll be back, and that I can promise you. But I did not play well, and certainly he did not. And he was, like I said, he was off in that first quarter, and I was just, whether his feet were bouncing around or he was just, I don't want to say nervous because he hadn't really been hit yet.
And he's a guy that doesn't get nervous. He's just, I don't know. He was a different guy.
Those first two passes to Travis Kelce, I can't explain. I mean,
he had time. Yeah,
he had time and he had them open. And the really bad one was, he was behind in the first one, but the second one was just that little seam route where they've run this play 1,000 times on 3rd and 5. They've run it 1,000 times, and somehow, some way, Patrick throws it inside and about 6 inches off the ground. And, Travis not even ready for it yet.
Yeah.
So he was playing a sped up game early on in this game, and he just never, ever got comfortable. And then all of a sudden the onslaught happened. And then when you're not uncomfortable and then that happens to you, then you get the performance, that we saw for the first three quarters. The fourth quarter, they scored 16 points. He was throwing the ball down the field. Touchdown pass to Xavier Worthy was beautiful, but unfortunately too little, too late.
All right, Super Bowl 59 in the books, a huge blowout. The Philadelphia Eagles, another Super Bowl championship for them, number 2 in their franchise history, and the Chiefs get their ass kicked. We'll get Jerry Recco in here to get you all the highlights and sound from New Orleans last night. It is Boomer and Gio on the Fan and CBS Sports Network.